Hello everyone, welcome to The World Today. I'm Jokea Rogers. Here's what's coming up on the program. Body of former President of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari, to return on Tuesday for burial in his hometown, Daura, Katsina State. U.S. mission and Chinese embassies send condolence messages following death of former Nigerian President Muhammadu Buhari. Plus, U.S. President Donald Trump announces plans to send sophisticated military equipment to Ukraine as he criticizes President Vladimir Putin of Russia. Let's begin The World Today. Nigeria is mourning its former president, Muhammadu Buhari, who passed away on Sunday in London, the United Kingdom, at the age of 82. The late president's funeral is expected to be in his hometown, Daura, Katsina State, Northwest Nigeria. Governor of the state, Diko Rada, has formally announced the burial arrangement. He revealed earlier today that following consultations with the late president's family and close associates in London, it's been agreed that the remains of the former leader will arrive in Katsina State tomorrow, Tuesday, July 15, 2025, by noon. His burial is expected to take place in Daura by 2 p.m. on the same day. Former President Buhari, who was 82, served as Nigeria's democratically elected president from 2015 to 2023. He also served as military head of state between January 1984 and August 1985. Let's now go to our crew stationed in the United Kingdom for updates on preparations for the repatriation of the remains of late President Muhammadu Buhari. Our London bureau chief, Juliana Olayinka, reports.
Well, I'm standing here once again outside the London Clinic in central London, where Nigeria's former president, Muhammadu Buhari, passed away yesterday afternoon, aged 82, following a prolonged illness. Now, since the news broke, key figures from Nigeria's leadership have now arrived to the British capital. This is, of course, being led by Vice President Senator Kashim Shettima and President Bola Tinubu's Chief of Staff, Femi Gbajabiamila. They both landed at Stansted Airport earlier this morning. That is about a couple of hours away from where I am. Now, while they have not yet been officially sighted at the clinic, I am reliably informed that they are in the capital to oversee arrangements surrounding the late president's repatriation and, crucially, to offer personal support to the Buhari family. Now, already this morning, the vice president has paid a private condolence visit to former First Lady Aisha Buhari. That meeting, I'm told, took place at her London residence, which is not too far from here. This is an important gesture, not just politically, but of course personally, given the Vice President's ties to the family. Now, in terms of next steps, behind the scenes work is ongoing to finalize the paperwork that is required for President Buhari's body to be flown back to Nigeria in a timely manner. Now, sources close to the family have indicated that repatriation could take place in the early hours of tomorrow morning, with arrangements already in motion for the president's final resting place in Daura, Katsina State. There, the former president will be laid to rest in line with Islamic rites and full state protocol. Meanwhile, global tributes continue to come in. I've seen tweets from the likes of the Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. There was also a tweet by the U.S. mission in Nigeria. There's been several condolence messages left by African leaders. Now, here in London, the focus is very much on ensuring the dignified return of President Buhari's remains, one final journey home from the same city where he spent many months receiving treatment in recent years. Juliana Olayinka reporting for Channels Television News in London.
Thanks, Juliana. In the meantime, a former head of state, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, who incidentally was admitted at the same hospital in London where the former president passed on, said that he's saddened by the loss, describing him as a patriotic Nigerian who will be missed by his former colleagues in the military and his political associates.
Unfortunately, we were in the same hospital together. but I have been discharged. So when I heard the news of his passing away, I quickly went there to condole with the family and see what can be done in order to get him ready, to get the corpse ready to be taken home.
Talk to me about the man, your relationship with him, when you met him, your fond memories of him.
Well, my relationship with General Buhari went back to as far back as 1962. We joined the military. He was my senior. And during the unfortunate civil war, we were fighting in the same sector with him. General Buhari is a gentleman who is very quiet, but exceptionally honest. You can trust Buhari with anything on this earth, and he will not betray you. During his tenure as a military officer, you have seen how he has tried to fight corruption, and also he established war against indiscipline in order to make us Nigerians behave the way the civilized world behaves. He introduced the war against indiscipline, and Nigeria was cleaner and more respectful during that tenure. Unfortunately, we lost those values that he tried to inculcate in Nigerians. When he became the democratic president, again, he tried his best to make sure that he fights corruption. Unfortunately, most of the officers, some of the officers who served with him are found wanting. They didn't do as much as is expected of them. So may he rest in peace. Well, certainly his death has been a big blow to Nigeria. President Tinubu has asked the Vice President to come so that he can escort the body. This shows you the magnitude that has befallen Nigeria. With the passing away of President Buhari, politics in Nigeria will certainly change. I hope for the better.
More reactions for Governor of Borno State, Professor Babagana Zulum. President Buhari's death is a great loss to his people. And looking back at the Buhari administration, Governor Zulum said former President Buhari was a leader who stabilized the state during the height of Boko Haram attacks. He believes that the late president lived well, as he prays for the family and for the fortitude to bear the loss.
On behalf of the government and people of Borno State, I want to commiserate with the federal government of Nigeria, the president of Nigeria, the government and people of Katsina State, and indeed his family, over his demise, and may Almighty Allah, in his infinite wisdom, forgive and grant him eternal rest. The contributions of President Muhammadu Buhari to the growth and development of Borno State need not to be overemphasized, because we have started witnessing gradual return of peace when he took over as the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in 2015. Borno State was largely controlled by Boko Haram before 2015, but immediately as he took over the mantle of leadership of the country, he decided to transfer the military headquarters to Borno State, thereby bringing lasting peace and stability to the state. In addition to this, Borno State has been facing serious challenges of power outage as a result of vandalization by Boko Haram. It's under his leadership that Borno State, that the federal government has established independent power supply, the gas power supply, through the NNPC. And you know what it means to the people of Borno State, especially to Maiduguri.
Well, his successor, President Bola Tinubu, has also been mourning the passing of the late president, describing him as a core patriot, a soldier, a statesman who served Nigeria with unwavering dedication and whose legacy of service and sacrifice endures. In a statement he personally signed, President Tinubu extends his deepest condolences to the former president's wife, Aisha Buhari, his children, the entire Buhari family, and all who knew and loved him. In his words, President Tinubu said the former president stood firm through the most turbulent times, leading with quiet strength, profound integrity, and an unshakable belief in Nigeria's potential to be great. He championed discipline in public service, confronted corruption head-on, and placed the country above personal interests at every turn. President Tinubu adds that the federal government will accord President Buhari full state honors befitting his towering contributions to the country, ordering flags to be flown at half-staff as a mark of respect for the departed leader. There have also been international reactions trailing the death of Nigeria's former president. The U.S. mission in Nigeria has extended its deepest condolences to the country, describing the late president as a leader whose life was defined by service, discipline, and a commitment to restore integrity to public office. The mission also acknowledged President Buhari's legacy, lauding his efforts to strengthen Nigeria's democratic institutions. The Chinese embassy has also paid tribute to the late leader, calling him a resolute leader whose unwavering dedication to Nigeria's unity and progress leaves an enduring legacy. The statement says the former President Buhari's pivotal contributions to advancing the China-Nigeria relations will forever remain etched in shared history. Turkey has also joined the list of countries mourning former President Buhari. In a statement released today, the Turkish embassy expressed deep sadness and extended condolences to the Nigerian government and people. The embassy praised for his soul, saying, "May the Almighty Allah bless him." And from India, Prime Minister Narendra Modi took to social media to honor Mr. President Buhari's memory. He described him as a leader of wisdom and warmth and a committed partner in strengthening India-Nigeria ties. Let's bring in public affairs analyst and lawyer Oluyinka Oyeniji to discuss the late president's legacy in the Foreign Service. Thanks for joining us on the program today.
Thank you also for having me.
Right, so before we delve into former President Buhari's legacy, let me ask how you personally received the news of his passing. What were your initial thoughts when you heard?
Oh, well, so you've asked about my personal opinion, and I can tell you, first thing I try to investigate personally in my own heart is whether this is the same former president or somebody else. All right, because while he was president, there were controversies surrounding his state of health. It was never made public. And I remember that many senior advocates who should be of repute went to court and said we couldn't even find out the true state of the health of our president. And there were times where there were arguments over his identity. It is sad to say that that was never resolved. There was never closure for that. So I didn't know whether I should mourn a former president or mourn an impostor. I had absolutely no idea. And that is the truth, personally. That's number one. Number two, I then looked at it. What is the life expectancy age for an average Nigerian? So he died at 82. I would say that he died at good old age. Maybe I'm mistaken. But I know my Bible says to be that 70, the number of years that we are expected to live. So he died at 82. All right, so I didn't think that he died young, and I don't think there's absolutely, for me personally, I don't think compared to what you experience in Nigeria, where people die at age 30, 40 of different diseases, he managed to live to 82. So people will mourn him differently, but personally, I mourn him with mixed feelings.
And how would you assess, the significance of international reactions we've seen from the US, China, Turkey, and India, especially in terms of his standing on the global stage?
I think that it's also a period for us to reflect over how we are perceived as a nation on the international scene. That is very critical. Unfortunately, I don't think that we hold the position of the president as important as embodying who we are as a people, so that the world, the rest of the world, will respect us. I mean, Mr. Former President Abdulsalami said in his interview that it was unfortunate that there were officials around Buhari who didn't go toe-to-toe with him in trying to fight corruption. And I'll say, yes, I agree with the former president. Do the rest of the world really respect Nigeria at this time? I think that what we have seen, I am surprised and sad, maybe not that surprised, that people will condole with us on Twitter. I mean, you've got to go to on X to condole with us over the demise of the immediate former president. I think that if other presidents in the world die, you may find a Trump addressing a press conference, or the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. He died in the United Kingdom. Our colonizers, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, I don't hear you say to me that Mr. Prime Minister has said anything or has even visited the hospital or anything. That is not happening. He's died in a private clinic in the United Kingdom. And Abdulsalami Abubakar, another former president, was there at the same time, and is bold to say on national television that they were both admitted for treatment in a private hospital in the United Kingdom at the same time. So I think that it's something for us to reflect on. How do the rest of the world perceive Nigeria? Okay, where's the president of South Africa? What is he saying? We are supposed to be giants of Africa, ain't we? All right, in the west of Africa, who's speaking? But we've got Turkey, we've got China. Those are people that are already around us, all right, still give us some handouts with respect to supporting us. And the best they can do is go on social media. I think that's a lot of misgivings right there. We should start to take ourselves more seriously as the most populous black nation, we are told. We should start to take the office of president of Nigeria seriously, so that we can be perceived in the deserving manner, in a positive way that I believe that Nigeria should be done for.
All right. So do you think these tributes reflect genuine diplomatic ties, or more of the formal protocol we typically see after the death of a former head of state?
Well, we still have 24 hours to find out. I'll say that. Probably we'll have a few more days. Possibly there will be visits, public visits to the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Tinubu. Maybe it's come too soon. All right. Again, let's be honest. Maybe it's come too soon. The world is experiencing different challenges all around. So maybe this come too soon. Possibly we'll have public visits, all right, of presidents of other countries to our own president in the couple of days to come. And that may properly reflect that we've lost the immediate past president of Nigeria. As of now, I think that they still got a lot of light touch on it, with embassies releasing statements. I don't think it's good enough, to be honest, other than the Prime Minister of India, who by himself has made a statement again that is being followed on social media. I don't see anything that really has a lot of candor in support of it. But we may be speaking too soon. Perhaps they plan to attend his burial. There will still be 8 days ahead. Perhaps there will be public visits to the president of Nigeria. But as of now, maybe it's too soon to judge.
Well, let's look at some of the things that happened when he was in office. And in terms of foreign policy, what would you say are some of President Buhari's most notable achievements or missteps, especially in strengthening Nigeria's relations with global powers?
Oh, I would say we didn't do much. And that's obvious now that he's passed. He wasn't able to achieve much. Again, I would rather look at it from what we were able to do at home, because that's not what we leverage on. The Yoruba adage, from where I come from, says Ile Latin ko Eshorode. So it's from the home that you start to build your reputation. So I think that, first of all, former President Buhari enthroned the sense of entitlement to becoming president in Nigeria. He epitomized that. So he made attempts 2, 3 times, 4, and then we thought, oh, if it was Buhari of 1982, then so be it again. I think we made a mistake. It was a major error right there, just thinking that it was his own turn to be president because he was leading the Northern Elite and that conversation that nobody can be president except the North supports you. So you will find that Buhari's demise would occasion some kind of shift. Abdulsalami Abubakar says to affect our politics. Politics has not helped Nigeria, not in any way, okay? And he that is still alive should be thinking about that before he too has to leave, all right? What politics, in what way, okay? So Buhari had the opportunity of becoming Nigeria's president for at least 3 terms, okay? First time in 1982, second term 2015 to 19, and 2019 to 2023. And then we struggle to be able to find something tangible that Buhari did. I was speaking to my colleague earlier, Yemi Adamolekun of Enough is Enough, and she had to remind me. The first things that came to my mind was, oh, there's an aviation university in the north named after Buhari. There's a maritime academy named after Buhari. It's not about the names you give these institutions. It's about the impact you made. But Buhari epitomized this turn by turn is my turn. That's all we saw. And I mean, I'm sorry. I think that was a missed opportunity as a president coming with that kind of impression. I remember it was about Buhari fighting corruption. And so Goodluck Jonathan and his aides made a mess of government, and we just thought, oh, Buhari by his body. I remember we were talking about his body, what now? I can't forget that word that we're using, that his posture would make everybody sit up. Oh no, but we have an Emefiele who we are still trying to prosecute in court, who has or had an estate of over 700 and something houses under Buhari's watch. All right, so I try to think again about the second Niger bridge, perhaps, and in fact, the coastal way, the new coastal way, probably is mentioned more than the second Niger bridge. Okay, talk about insecurity. This is a former military ruler until today, even after his demise. You say I have a problem with insecurity in Nigeria, and the Borno governor is saying to us that we had sustainable peace in Borno. Is this serious? Where military formations are being sacked on a daily basis.
If I could just come in there.
Let me round up on that. I can't clearly see anything. There was the Naira swap with the Chinese yuan. Okay, that didn't go anywhere. So it was missed opportunity that maybe the BRICS nation can improve upon. I don't think he showed anything in particular that we could have held to him as a major achievement on the international scene.
You spoke about a lot of missed opportunities, but I mean, there are people who can point to a lot of things that he did, that helped the country as well. Not just those missed opportunities. There are other things that he must have done that people will say, right, this is what he did when he was in office, and Nigeria is better for it.
Let me try. Yemi Adamolekun said to me that he signed the Not Too Young to Run bill into law. And I said at the time that we should have had too old to run at the same time. Okay, so we have the Not Too Young to Run. The last elections in Lagos State, it was a one-party affair, all right? Whether he signed the Not Too Young to Run or not, okay, let's use data. How many people at what age have benefited from the Not Too Young to Run law, to run for office and win offices in Nigeria? I'm sorry, I can't see that at this time, all right? That's one of the things that I would have held on to him to say he did this. We had the also changing Naira, all right? That was a big mess, all right? And we've not recovered from it till today with respect to the economy, okay? Under his watch, we tried to sign the Petroleum Industry Act. And what has that done to petroleum product pricing today, all right? What has that done to, we still import crude to Nigeria. So I'm not unnecessarily being pessimistic, all right? With respect to engagement, we see how the NSAS till today, that is still rumbling, where Nigeria was deeply polarized and along ethnic nationalities. Till today, we still have a certain Nnamdi Kanu who is in jail, and we are not respecting orders made by the court. We had an invasion of Supreme Court justices' residence under his watch. So, I mean, it's a struggle for me. I don't have a problem. If anybody, maybe you call me some other time, if somebody presents facts, because I would like to argue based on facts. So if somebody presents facts to me, I then may be able to acknowledge. And it's what you are saying today. I mean, if there was only one thing, if Buhari focused on corruption, or if he focused on taking away insecurity, and I think that we would have been able to hold that to him to say, yes, he came and he addressed those problems.
Right. I must thank you for your time today. Lawyer and public affairs analyst Yinka Oyuniji speaking to us from the United Kingdom.
Thank you for having me.
And still to come. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen strikes a free trade deal with Indonesia after President Trump warns the EU could face a 30% tariff hike. Details soon. Please stay with us. Welcome back. U.S. President Donald Trump has issued a sharp warning to countries aligning with BRICS policies. In a Truth Social post, Mr. Trump stated that any country aligning itself with the anti-American policies of BRICS will be charged an additional 10% tariff. In response, BRICS nations, without naming the U.S. directly, criticized unjustified unilateral protectionist measures, warning these moves threaten to disrupt the global economy. Meanwhile, Nigeria, officially welcomed as a BRICS partner country earlier this year, reaffirmed its commitment to the alliance. Speaking at the summit, President Bola Tinubu emphasized Nigeria's alignment with BRICS values, calling for financial restructuring and fairer global governance. He also voiced Africa's frustration over global inequalities, stating that Africa has contributed the least to global emissions but suffers the most. We'll bring in Osaramen Izeboko, International Affairs Analyst and Research Consultant at the Padlink, to delve into this topic. Great to see you on the program today.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Right, so first, what were your initial thoughts when you heard that Nigeria's former President Buhari had died?
Oh, it was shocking. It was shocking. I mean, for everyone, you know, that's got a human heart, whether you were in the opposition or not, the very first thing that comes to mind is for you to do a self-reappraisal, you know, of your own very existence, and then to look back on what you may have done right or wrong in your course of existence on earth. General Muhammadu Buhari, I like to call him General, because that was the perspective that I always saw him from, even as a democratic leader. You know, he had a demeanor that posits a man of dignity and integrity, and this was what I always wanted to see him at, and that was what I saw him as, even till the end. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's just move on quickly to some of the other issues. Given recent U.S. threats of tariffs on countries aligning with the BRICS, can Nigeria afford to deepen ties with the bloc without jeopardizing its relationship with the West?
You see, once again, Nigeria is going into waters, uncharted waters. Basically, they may have been charted, but somehow we feign ignorance in the realm of international diplomacy. And I find this disturbing. I find this disturbing because we should have individuals, analysts, foreign analysts, diplomatic analysts, you know, within the reach of the foreign ministry of Nigeria that would guide the president into taking decisions, you know, that will better the Nigerian state. So what I saw was something that really broke my heart, yeah, intellectually. I find Nigeria, you know, having to move an inch close, to the BRICS, which is not supposed to be. These are things that we can do even without coming into the bloc. You should understand that Donald Trump, the America led by Donald Trump today, is something that you now have to employ diplomacy, to approach. Yes, we understand that he has 4 years to be there, and then maybe some other person is going to come on. Well, basically, some other person is going to come on because that is the constitutional arrangement for their tenure in office in the U.S. But then we should try as much as possible, forward moving, we should try as much as possible to always think about the repercussion of our actions. Yes, I know you would want to say, yeah, we approach it, from a very, tactical perspective, from a target-oriented perspective, from a perspective that benefits the Nigerian state and all that. But then there is really nothing for you in the BRICS that you cannot get from one-on-one bilateral relations with these countries that are in the BRICS. So basically, I find it as something, possibly someone just had a premeditated and conscientious intention, to annoy Donald Trump from the Nigerian side.
Right.
I know we are in certain states, but then we should employ tact in our diplomacy.
Right, and with the BRICS expanding to include major oil economies like Saudi Arabia and the UAE, what strategic or economic benefits could Nigeria realistically gain by aligning or joining the group?
Nothing, completely nothing, zero. And I want anyone to challenge me on this. Nothing, completely nothing. We have the Russians there who are in the OPEC Plus and all that, and then we have OPEC, we have all these nations within the country. There's no free trade arrangement in the BRICS, so you know. It's not like you're going to the BRICS and then you're going to have all that all the instruments of economic advantage will be presented to you automatically. No, that is not how it works. These are things that we are supposed to be employing quiet diplomacy. What is our diplomatic policy? What is our foreign policy? Have we got a foreign policy? We should be able to be very, very cunning and crafty. A craftsmanship must come into our diplomatic endeavors as a nation. We must approach things tactfully. Yeah, we have Saudi Arabia, we have Russia, we have China, and these, well, basically Russia and China. Let's take out Saudi Arabia. Russia and China, these are countries that are at loggerhead economically and politically with the United States. Today, Donald Trump just clamped on Russia secondary sanctions, and these are the people we are supposed to try as much as possible, to move from and ensure that we have a clean perspective of relationship, with the global society. We shouldn't be seen to be aligning to one side of the aisle.
Yes, and as you have really, really touched on, there are global tensions growing between the U.S.-led West and, of course, the BRICS alliance. Is it still viable for Nigeria to maintain, a strategic non-alignment, or will it eventually be forced to take sides?
At this point, we have to employ damage control. At this point, we have to employ damage control. What we need to do is to get craftsmanship on board. The people that went to school, in this area of diplomacy and have experience in this area of diplomacy, bring them on board. Let's have a convergence of brains to be able to get us out of this mess, and then double in. Yeah, not double down, double in on futuristic aims and objectives. Things that it should be Nigeria first. It should be Nigeria first. So basically, I see this as something that we cannot. If we don't handle it carefully, we would not be able to get out of it unscathed. So this is my view.
Right. Thank you again for that interesting discussion with you. Thank you for your time on the program today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Let's move ahead. African leaders must return to the drawing board, abandon colonial-era mindsets, and harness the continent's own vast resources to drive sustainable development. This is according to Dr. Francis Opaleke, a doctor of philosophy in international relations and security studies, during an interview on our foreign affairs program, Diplomatic Channel. Dr. Opaleke urges African governments to prioritize self-reliance and develop policies that reflect the realities and potentials of the continent, rather than relying on external models that have historically stifled growth.
The reality is this: there's still that colonial mentality or post-colonial mentality seeping through Africans. African countries are still attached to their former colonial, colonial countries, by the tail. If Africa goes back to the drawing board and says, hey, look, with these resources that we have, if we kind of turn things around and start looking inward in terms of how we can advance ourselves, the neo-colonial tide can actually shift. So we can start looking more inwards in terms of how we can advance, how we can better ourselves, how we can use these resources to better our people, and of course to improve the economic advancements of the continent as a whole. So essentially, as long as they're pitching these resources, I think they're operating from the place of disadvantage. And resources, as we have seen from rentier economies, only just further down the line just disadvantages them, as long as they consume what they don't produce and produce what they don't consume. Africa still produce what they don't consume. These resources are shipped overseas, but they come back as finished products, and we buy them at very expensive forex, and we are ultimately still benefiting the center of the center economies at the grand scheme of things. We need to turn that around. We need to sort it out at the government level. We need to sort it out at the economic level. We also have to have it working such that we are a clear demonstration that the resources we have, that we are capable of mining them, producing them, and of course using them and transforming them to better Africans, in general. Look at the multidimensional poverty going on in Africa. That shouldn't be if you're resource rich. It still goes back to that paradox of prosperity, or the paradox of plenty. Why should African countries that are so rich still suffer a lot of poverty, deprivation, malnutrition, and the likes? I think it should be the other way around. And that paradox, as long as it remains omnipresent, it needs to be nipped in the bud.
You can watch more of Dr. Opaleke's thoughts on Diplomatic Channel. It airs tonight at 8:30 on Sky 515 in the UK, and at 11:30 on DSTV 420, or you can catch it on the playlist on Channels Television on our YouTube channel. Denmark's Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen has called on Europe to stand firm as US President Donald Trump threatened to slap a 30% tariff on European exports. Speaking in Brussels, Mr. Rasmussen said Europe should be ready to use all tools against the tariffs. He stressed that Europe's 450 million citizens give it significant leverage against Mr. Trump's policies.
A big and important trade partner, but if you look at the figures, they only count for or participate in something like 13% of global trade. So there's still 87% outside US, and I think everybody sense a readiness in other corners of the world to reach out for Europe. I very much welcome the agreement in principle with Indonesia during this weekend. We are 450 million citizens in the European custom unit, which give us a lot of leverage. So we want a deal. But there's an old wording saying if you want peace, you have to prepare for war. And I think that's where we are. Of course, we shouldn't impose countermeasures on this stage, but we should prepare to be ready to use all the tools in the toolbox. I guess everybody realized that we are dealing with a counterpart who is, to put it diplomatic, not as predictable as one could wish. but that's the reality of life, something we have to deal with. And I guess the best position for us is to stay united, to have the discussion among ourselves in closed settings, and to communicate in the open space with a very, very clear message.
Meanwhile, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen says the EU is ready to respond if the United States goes ahead with its plan to impose a 30% tariff on European exports. Ms. von der Leyen stressed that the EU still prefers a negotiated solution, but will not hesitate to defend its economic interests.
It's very important. We have always been very clear that we prefer a negotiated solution. This remains the case, and we will use the time that we have now till the 1st of August. And on the second track, since the very beginning, we have worked and now are ready to respond with countermeasures. We've prepared for this, and we can respond with countermeasures if necessary. So this two-track approach pays off because we are prepared.
I think the United States will be always a very important leader in the world, but I consider Europe to be also a very important factor in the world civilization. The history of Europe, Europe is in the leading edge of many science, technology, etc. And Europe is always leading the world in upholding democratic values, human rights, etc. So we consider Europe still a very important factor, and we would like to see a very strong Europe. This I think, is part of this, the world architecture of let us say, multipolar and powers that will contribute to peace and stability, because the planet is getting smaller.
And still to come. A colorful yet fierce showdown of fireworks. Welcome back. At least 30 people have been killed in the Syrian city of Sweda in clashes between local military groups and tribes. According to Syria's Interior Ministry, initial figures suggest that around 100 people have also been injured in the city, where the Druze faith is one of the major religious groups. The violence reportedly erupted after a wave of kidnappings, including the abduction of a merchant on the highway linking Damascus to Sweda. This marks the latest episode of sectarian violence in Syria, where fears among minority groups have increased since Islamist-led rebels toppled President Bashar al-Assad in December, installing their own government and security forces. Well, crowds rallied outside the Israeli government headquarters in Jerusalem on Sunday evening to call for a ceasefire deal and the return of Gaza hostages. Footage captures protesters chanting and waving banners and placards with photos of those still held by Hamas. Israel-Hamas negotiations mediated by the United States, Qatar and Egypt have intensified recently. U.S. President Donald Trump has also said that he hopes to reach a ceasefire agreement in Gaza this week. On July 14 every year, France celebrates its National Day, commonly known as English-speaking countries as Bastille Day. It's the anniversary of the storming of the Bastille on July 14, 1789, a major event of the French Revolution. Celebrations are held throughout France on that day and also in other countries, including here in Nigeria. Our correspondent, Amarachi Ubani, reports.
What is a 14 juillet without a party? And for parties like this, the French usually invite friends, associates, with the colors of blue, white and red gaily displayed. In the room tonight at the Lycée Louis Pasteur in Lagos are members of the French consulate in Lagos, fellow diplomats, government officials, and members of the French and Nigerian business community. Amidst the camaraderie and banter going on, guests are treated to an array of French snacks and wine. The evening formally opens with a rendition of the Nigerian and French national anthems. And the French Consul General, Laurent Favier, extols the cordial relations that exist between France and Nigeria, highlighted by President Bola Tinubu's visit in April this year.
Therefore, that's why in the last few years, we have consistently given our full attention to defending and supporting countries against illegal aggressions, to uphold the principles of international order, freedom, independence of the people. Apart from these values and the bonds that are linking Nigeria and France on global issues, our bilateral relationship, which has a long history, significant growth has occurred recently. For example, late 2024, President Tinubu's state visit to France and working visit of a couple of different governors in Paris last April mark the climax of this relationship today.
He also highlighted recent projects that both countries are working on together.
Our economic ties, you know that are very, very flourishing. Nigeria represents 60% of the trade in West Africa with France. And to date, more than 100 companies are operating in Nigeria and employing more than 14,000 Nigerian people. That deserves a round of applause. On the other side of the continent, we have in Paris, First Bank's presence at the Choose France Summit in Versailles this year. This is another sign of Nigeria's desire to continue to invest in France, following Access Bank, Zenith Bank, or UBS Bank. Congratulations, captains of the industry in Nigeria. You chose France and you're right in doing so.
Representing the Lagos State Government is the Commissioner for Budget and Economic Planning, who is also highlighting cooperation in agriculture, renewable energy, and cultural diplomacy.
The establishment of the Alliance Française at the Maikadunuga Center has continued to serve as a vibrant platform for cultural exchange and creative collaboration. In November 2024, Nigeria and France signed a €300 million agreement to boost agriculture, infrastructure, and security. A landmark achievement that promises tangible benefits for our people. Lagos is poised to benefit from these initiatives, particularly in urban mobility and renewable energy. Earlier this year, we also welcomed the French ambassador, from Bastille, to discuss expanding cooperation in agriculture and water transportation, areas critical to our development agenda. I would like to commend the French consul in Lagos and the French ambassador to Nigeria for their unwavering dedication and exemplary efforts in strengthening and sustaining the robust diplomatic relations between France and Nigeria, with particular emphasis on Lagos State.
Some lucky Nigerians win the lottery prize of e-tickets on Air France. That brought events of the evening to a close, leaving guests to catch up on more chit-chat and banter the rest of the evening. Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News.
Da Nang skyline lit up in a spectacular display of colors. China and Vietnam went head-to-head in the grand finale of the 2025 Da Nang International Fireworks Festival. Thousands lined the banks of the Han River to watch the two teams set the sky ablaze with bursts of red, green, blue and gold dancing overhead. Beyond the sparks and celebrations, the festival brought a tourism boom to Da Nang. Flights hit a record high over the weekend, hotel bookings surged, and international visitors increased by over 80% compared to last year. That's the world today, but before we go, I'd like to inform our viewers that coming up on top of the hour, a documentary on Kaduna Education Summit 2025, but only for our DSTV platform. I'm Joke Rogers. Bye for now.